All right. So today I'm really excited to be talking with Christa. And Christa, if you don't know, she is the inventor of Hestaband, which is a kinesiology tape for horses, but also she put together a course for us. It's an advanced equine taping course. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about that. So welcome, Christa. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to actually meeting in person at some point.
Yeah, we'll make it happen next
Yeah,
time I'm down to
thanks.
Florida.
We will. We'll definitely make it happen.
Yeah, awesome. So just tell us a little bit about your background, like what got you started in equine therapy, and then what actually led you to creating your own kinesiology tape.
Um, so my story is a little long. I was born in northern Canada where there are no horses, none. And my first words were og and orse. And I have always had this incredible desire to learn more, to study more about horses. My uncle had horses in Nova Scotia, where I'm currently living and where my family predominantly is from. And so we used to go bareback across the mountains, but really in the summer, that's the only time I got to be connected with horses. And I just have always had this crazy desire to learn more about them. And so it was a very tough route to get from northern Canada where it's ice and snow, freezing cold, like literally minus 83 degrees Celsius before they closed high school.
Wow.
Like, I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit. I don't know,
Yeah.
beyond
It's
freezing.
pretty chilly.
Right? Um, and so I just set out. I went and did pre-veterinary medicine. And then from there, I got to speaking with people at least in the veterinary community about how I could learn to work with horses. And from there, I went to another province where I took equine technology and there into the equine massage. And so, yeah, it was a long gauntlet route. But I think, life happens just as it's supposed to. And yeah, so then I graduated in 99 and that program was 2 years long, 2,200 hours. The most extensive course, I think, for sure in Canada. The school had just opened up. Um, and then from there, I came back to Nova Scotia and just started doing, treating any horse that I could work with, really connecting with the veterinarians, farriers, because equine therapy back in 1999, especially in Canada, was like non-existent. Nobody had heard of it. They didn't even remotely, understand at all what that sort of thing was. So I spent the first 10 years of my career really doing a lot of PR work, educating people, doing seminars and things like that. And of course, we didn't really have access to the internet like we do now. So it was just a lot of foot traffic. And that's kind of where my career started. And then I was so lucky to meet with other, excuse me, Canadian riders that, I was able to go to Germany. I've been to Dubai a couple of times. I, worked in Florida most winters for, 10, 15 years. Working with like the elite athletes there from Canada. So that was a blessing. I think when you work at that level, it keeps your eye really sharp. And so then when I'd come back to my clients here, I had an idea of what I thought the horse could move like, and it just made me a better therapist.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really
Mhm.
cool. So then how did you get into kinesiology tape?
Well, I have a friend of mine who was a human physiotherapist, and she said, "Hey, the taping company is coming out with an equine course." And I was like, "Wow, that's fascinating." And I had been playing with human tape on like suspensory injuries with horses anyway, that had been injured here. So it was kind of always going to happen, I think. I just didn't know it at the time. But anyway, so she told me that this taping company was going to start developing courses for horse use. And I was like, wow, I'm going to have to go to Austria. And so that was Dr. Sibylle Mollet that was doing that with Kinesio.
Mhm.
And I was lucky enough to be working with the Canadian riders and horses in Florida when Sibylle brought the program to the US for the first time. So it was offered in California, Colorado, and Florida. that year in 2013. And luckily for me, I was living 15 minutes away from where the site was, and it was a no-brainer. I took it and never really kind of looked back.
Awesome. Yeah. So me too. Like when I first started using kinesiology tape on people, I just thought it was so awesome. I was like, let me start sticking this on animals and see what they do. And it's really cool to see that they react the same as when you're taping it on the skin of people. So yeah, it's pretty neat stuff. So what made you create your own brand of tape? Did you see that there was a need for a specific equine tape?
I think when I came back to, because taping was also very new. When I came back to Canada from Florida, my fuzzy Canadian ponies are still pretty woolly in April, and I just couldn't get the tapes to stick the way I had wanted them to. And so it started out as a long journey. I guess that's the theory of of this discussion today, is that nothing happens quickly. Um, so I just knew that I needed something that, and I was really busy. Like I was a really busy therapist. I was treating 150 horses a month. I was traveling 5,000 kilometers a month. Just go, 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 go. I was treating in 3 separate provinces at the time. Like, and that was like that for many, many years of my career. And so I don't have time to do the surface prep. I don't have time to do the alcohol wipes. I needed something that I could just take out of my truck and go. And so that's where I guess what's called now Hestaband Cotton started. And I had pages and pages and pages of contacts. I would write them and I would say, this is who I am. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I need. And so Hestaband Cotton was born first, I guess.
Okay, that's cool.
And then I never intended it to be released publicly. I was never making it to sell. I was making it for me, for my clients in small batch orders. And then I started having a lot of referrals for deformed foals. And Hestaband Cotton has a fair amount of stretch, but you had to use so much for these foals. A lot of them had severe contractures, ligament laxities, you name it. And for whatever reason, I just started getting a lot of veterinary referrals for that. And so I was like, I need something, I need another tape that can mimic the ligaments of an animal or a joint or whatever. And so then I started with Hestaband, what's now called Hestaband Satin. So it took me a long time to make that one. That one was really hard. I had a lot of people come back and say it couldn't be made, just because I wanted it to be the strongest adhesive, and I made it in bright colors so that the owners could see it in the fields on the foals, right?
Mhm.
And then it also should have had like some sort of water resistant, so that the foals could stay out on the grass or in the pastures and live their life while being taped. So then finalized that. And then in my research, I had tried just oodles of prototypes, and I had one tape that was beautiful. It was so wonderful, but my adhesive would seep through
Hmm.
every time we tried to make it, so it would never be effective for a long term, right? But that tape never panned out. And anyway, now I'm on a tangent. uh, so that was Hestaband Satin that finally I found the right mix of the tighter fabric weave and a different fabric weave, plus the water resistant application and the strong adhesive. So being also a lymphatic drainage practitioner, the majority of clients that I've seen in the last probably 10 years of my career are all like really extreme cases, full deformities, lymphedema clients, um, you know, upper level athletes. And so with being a lymphatic drainage practitioner, I got to see a lot of therapy, or a lot of horses that needed, lymphatic drainage. And so in all of the finding of the tapes and what worked and what didn't work, I knew I needed to have a tape that had a lot of elastic fibers to accommodate for the fluid volume in a limb that was really swollen. And so again, starting down the road to make that tape as good as I wanted, that's how Hestaband Lymph came about. It does have the same adhesive as satin, with a little bit of the elastic fibers that cotton has. So it's like a little bit of a hybrid.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got to play with your lymphatic tape recently. I like it, and it's already perforated for those who haven't seen it yet, so you don't really have
So,
to cut it into the fans and whatnot.
and that was the other thing. So when the horses came to me, and those little perforations, those holes mimic the lymphatic vessels and channels, right? So it acts like the natural anatomy of the lymphatic valves. But the thing is that when I had horses come to me that were so, they'd had CPL, for such a long time, or they had lymphedema, or they'd been on so many medications, they'd been bandaged, they'd been, cold hosed. For me to truly sit there and take the time to cut those strips and to do a fan taping down a limb of the horses, they were done.
Yeah.
They would not stand there anymore. And so with Hestaband Lymph, it's literally you tape proximal to distal, boom, you're done. And it's magic, it really works so well. But the veterinarians I work with here all seen my prototypes long before they actually were released publicly.
Okay. Yeah, super, super cool. So now if people want to purchase your tape, you're in Canada, so who can purchase it?
Pretty much anybody. I prefer that they have obviously some level of tape training,
Mhm.
whether it's the very basic or not. The satin is a little bit more of an advanced tape, as is the lymph. Cotton seems to be the favorite for beginner tapers. It's really easy to use. It has a nice forgiving back adhesive. And so they can kind of make a mistake and reapply it and stuff like that. But so Hestaband actually means horse tape in Icelandic. And it has been sent to over 36 countries now. So definitely shipping worldwide. We're just celebrated our fourth anniversary, and Hestaband was actually awarded the Export Achievement Award for our province. So that's
Wow,
been pretty
congratulations.
exciting. So anybody can buy it. If they have any questions, I'm very, like yourself, I'm always available to help and answer questions.
Great. Yeah. So tell people a little bit about the course that you put together with us. It's for people that have a basic knowledge of taping at least, but tell them what they'll learn in that course.
So the so I made that course a couple of years ago, and it was the first course I'd ever done online. I have taught lots and lots of courses from many different companies and universities and things like that. So when you had asked, hey, do you want to come and share some knowledge? And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I have so much, hands-on practical experience. Like, I don't know, I stopped counting how many tens of thousands of treatments I've done in my career. And I really wanted to make a course that was just bare bones. Here's a ton of information, but have it so that these were my actual case studies. This is what I seen. This is how I did it. And I wanted to kind of explain to people that, you don't have to always do symmetrical tapings. It can be, let's not a cookie cutter, which is the way Dr. Seville Mollet taught me, was
Mhm.
that, let's look at your assessment with the horse that you're working on at that time, and how can we tape them to help improve their condition, right? So that's what I wanted to convey. And at the time, being a busy therapist, I didn't necessarily want to do a full certification course. I wanted to make sure that the people taking the course got a ton of knowledge, real life examples, and then walk away with hopefully some more skills and taping applications for their toolkit.
Yeah, and I think people, if they haven't looked at it, and I encourage my students that have taken our equine taping course, if they want to continue and advance their taping skills, definitely to look into your course. It's affordable, like you said, it's a ton of knowledge, and you're available if they need help with it. And like what you said too, because for me, when I go around and teach as well, like I was teaching in the Netherlands recently, and a lot of those girls, they're osteopaths that were already certified in taping. And there's just different philosophies behind how to tape. And me too, like when I first started learning how to tape, it was based on the kinesio tape philosophies. And then I got into rock tape, which had a little bit of a different way of doing it and stuff. So I try to let people know too that there's not really one right way to do it. And you do have to use a lot of common sense, kind of trial and error, see how that particular animal responds to it, because sometimes they're going to respond differently than you would expect them to. But yeah, definitely a lot of just kind of problem solving and using your brain to figure out what would work best in that situation.
And the thing for me when I started, because I came back to an area where, human taping really wasn't even a big thing. It was, for sure, for the first 3 months, I say this almost every time I talk about it, that I had more tape in my hair or on my shoe. It was not an easy skill for me to learn. Massage, I got it right off the bat. I understood that. But lymphatic work and taping were very difficult. I struggled with it. And so, I understand when people message me and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, it's okay. Deep breath in. We're good. And just keep trying, right?
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of practice, like you said, even just handling the tape and learning how to take the paper off correctly and not get it all stuck all over you and everything. So it definitely, I try to encourage people to is like just get your hands on it, practice. You're not really going to hurt an animal. If you put it on in a way that maybe isn't the most beneficial for them, just take it off. It's not a big
Hmm.
deal. It's not like it's something that's, going to cause major damage if you, so. I tell them don't be afraid to, just start taping and definitely reach out if they need help. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So this has been great info. Is there anything that you want to share with us? Like what's in your future? What are you kind of working on now?
I have become, okay, let me just backtrack. Hestaband only became a public entity because the therapists that were following my Facebook site and my Instagram were asking me during the pandemic, like, what brand of tape was I using? And I was like, well, it's no tape, it's mine. So I have to say thank you to everybody that's always been there and supported me 1,000%. It never would have gone public if it hadn't been for all of you guys. Like, true story, I would have never, I just still would have been this little Canadian therapist doing her Canadian thing. But I do have some other things in the works that I can't quite share yet, but I will share this with you. I just launched a couple new styles of Hestaband satin, and satin was the original one for foals, but we've now gone on to use it for a lot of fashionable applications and things like that. So I made this one, and this is called it's so beautiful. I want to make one for the States, and I need some opinion on colors and stars because I did some research on the white star and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But anyway, we'll talk on that some more. I could use some help down there. But anyway, so this is the satin tape. So it is water resistant. But the one thing I love about it, when you do your stretch, release technique, when I teach people, they find that really hard. The fun thing about this tape is that here's your no stretch because the maple leaf is quite thick. So you do your no stretch and then you can stretch and then no stretch and stretch. And I haven't told anybody that
Very
yet.
cool. Yeah.
So there's one secret for you. But that's what this tape was made as a thank you to everybody that supported me and supported a small Canadian business.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Well, I'll have to get my hands on some of that tape so I can play with it.
I'll send you some. Canada Post is open tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Krista. Yeah, I really hope that at some point in the future we could do a workshop together down in Florida. That would be a lot of fun. And
I,
yeah, definitely
I would
look
love that.
forward to meeting you. Awesome.
Thanks
Well,
for having me.
if people want to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
I have a big stalking on Instagram and Facebook, and I have a Facebook group called Equine Kinesiology Taping, I think something like that. But it's just Christa Veinotte. My professional page says, and don't laugh, it's International Equine Massage Therapist because I made it when Facebook was first new, and now I'm afraid to change the title. So that's how you can find me on my professional page, and just Christa Veinotte, Veinotte. That's my her personal page, and then Instagram is Christa Veinotte _RMT. But and you can always find me at info@hestaband.com if you want to send me an email.
Okay, great. And yeah, I'll put a link to your
Oh,
website on this video too, so people can
cool.
find it. Well, awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you.
It's great chatting with you too. And don't forget that your students have an exclusive discount code for 10% off Hestaband and merchandise anytime all year long. You just have to post the code if you like.
Okay, perfect. We'll get them that as well. Well,
All right.
thank you
Thanks so
so much,
much.
Krista. All
Have a
right.
good day.
Thank you.